High school is supposed to be a place of learning and laughter, a time for making friends and creating memories that you'll look back on for the rest of your life. It's a backdrop for football games under bright stadium lights, awkward school dances in the gymnasium, and the nervous excitement of graduation day. For most people, the biggest fears are failing a math test or asking someone to prom. But what happens when those hallways, the ones filled with the echoes of teenage chatter and slamming lockers, become the setting for something truly terrifying? What if the place you're meant to feel safe becomes the source of your deepest, darkest nightmares? For some, the familiar sights and sounds of high school were twisted into something sinister, something that would follow them long after they walked out of those doors for the last time. The lockers that held textbooks and love notes held secrets of a much darker nature. The classrooms where you learned about history became the stage for a new, horrifying chapter. The friendly faces of classmates and teachers could mask something truly monstrous lurking just beneath the surface. These aren't just spooky tales told around a campfire. These are stories that unfolded in places just like the school you might have attended. Tonight we're going to step through the doors of 4 different schools, each with a story that defies explanation and will send a chill down your spine. We'll explore the unsettling accounts of students and staff who found themselves caught in situations that feel like they were ripped straight from a horror movie, except for one crucial detail. They were real. We'll delve into the strange and the terrifying, peeling back the layers of normalcy to reveal the darkness that can take root in the most unexpected places. So turn down the lights and prepare yourself. We are about to dive into 4 disturbing, true, high school horror stories, each one more unsettling than the last. These are the tales that the yearbooks don't mention, the legends that are whispered in hushed tones between classes. From a student who vanishes without a trace to a janitor who discovers a terrifying secret hidden right under his feet, these accounts will make you question what really goes on after the final bell rings. And, as always, the like button would really appreciate it if you took it out to a nice steak dinner, and then respectfully murdered it. Our story begins at Northgate High, fall of 1998. The air was crisp, the leaves were turning, and the school buzzed with new energy. At the center was Emily Carter, homecoming queen, cheer captain, honors student. Her smile lit up the halls. Everyone loved her. Emily's future seemed limitless. But, on a dreary October Tuesday, Emily landed in after-school detention, a first for her. That day, Emily Carter walked into room 213, and never walked back out. An hour later, at 4:30 p.m., Mr. Harrison dismissed the 3 students from detention. He watched as 2 boys grabbed their backpacks and hurried out the door. He then turned to Emily's desk, but found it empty. Her backpack was gone. He figured she must have slipped out a few minutes early. He locked up room 213 and headed home. But when dinner time came and went, and Emily still hadn't returned home, her parents began to worry. It wasn't like her to be late without calling. Her mother called Sarah, who confirmed Emily had gone to detention. Panic started to set in. By 9 p.m., Emily's parents had contacted the police. Officers arrived at Northgate High, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They searched every classroom, every locker, but found nothing. It was as if Emily Carter had simply vanished into thin air. The next day, Northgate High was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Students were questioned, lockers were searched again, and police officers became a common sight in the hallways. The 2 boys who were in detention with Emily were interviewed extensively. They both said the same thing. Emily had been quiet the whole time, doodling in a notebook. They didn't see her leave, but they also admitted they weren't paying much attention. Rumors began to fly around the school like wildfire. Some whispered she ran away with a secret boyfriend. Others speculated she'd been abducted from the school parking lot. The story grew more fantastic with each telling. Weeks turned into months, and the official search effort slowly wound down. The police had no leads, no suspects, and no evidence of foul play. Emily's disappearance became a local legend, a ghost story whispered by new generations of Northgate students. Her locker, number 342, was eventually reassigned, but no one ever wanted it. It was said that sometimes, late at night, you could hear the faint sound of a girl's laughter near room 213. The only tangible clue ever found was a small, folded piece of paper discovered weeks later, tucked inside a history textbook in the library. On it was a cryptic, hastily scrawled note: "He sees me when I'm sleeping." Years after Emily Carter vanished, her story faded into town folklore, until a school renovation uncovered a hidden crawl space. Inside, workers found a worn backpack and a faded student ID. Emily's human remains confirmed her fate, shocking the community. The truth emerged. Her teacher, Mr. Harrison, confessed to sealing her behind the wall after a tragic confrontation. Our story takes us to Westbrook High School in the late 70s, where Arthur Finch, the head janitor, worked the night shift for over 30 years. Arthur knew every corner of the school, finding comfort in its quiet halls after dark. But one cold November night, as he cleaned near the gym, he heard a faint, rhythmic thumping. The sound led him to the boys' locker room, where the air felt unnaturally cold. The thumping grew louder, coming from beneath the concrete floor, sending chills up Arthur's spine. Arthur knelt, pressing his ear to the cold locker room floor. A steady, rhythmic thump echoed beneath the tiles. He tapped the spot, hollow, heart-pounding. He fetched a crowbar and flashlight. With trembling hands, he pried up a tile, revealing a dark, gaping void. Musty air rushed out. The thumping stopped. Shining his light, Arthur saw a hidden ladder descending into blackness. Taking a deep breath, he climbed down into the unknown. The ladder descended into a small, circular room, no bigger than a walk-in closet. The walls were rough-hewn stone, and the air was thick and heavy. Arthur's flashlight revealed a scene that made his blood run cold. The room was mostly empty, except for a rotting wooden crate, and strange markings on the walls. Hundreds of tally marks were scratched into the stone. It was a calendar of someone's despair. The light fell upon a human skeleton, its bones yellowed with age. It wore a tattered 1940s-era high school letterman jacket. Arthur stumbled backward, stifling a cry. This wasn't just a hidden room, it was a tomb. Someone had died here, alone in the dark. Arthur scrambled up the ladder and called the police. The remains were identified as Robert Miller, missing since 1948. Robert was a quiet boy, often bullied. He was locked in the cistern during a hazing ritual. The bullies never came back for him. The thumping sound was Robert's desperate plea for help. At Northgate High, the school year's rhythm was comforting, until Mr. Alistair Finch arrived. He replaced Mrs. Gable, and instantly, everything felt wrong. Tall, gaunt, with cold, empty eyes, he stood apart from the other teachers. His monotone voice and lingering stare unsettled everyone. Students whispered, tried to brush it off, but the unease grew. Nightmares began. Distorted classrooms, Finch whispering in the shadows. Soon, strange things happened even when awake. The substitute's shadow haunted them all. Whispers at Northgate High turned to fear. Students saw shadows, faces and static, always resembling the substitute, Mr. Finch. The administration dismissed their fears, but the students knew something was wrong. Led by Sarah, a small group began to investigate. In the archives, they found a file from the 1920s. Alistair Finch, a troubled student obsessed with the occult. He vanished after threatening to haunt the school forever. Now, his presence was back, feeding on their fear. Sarah, Mike, and two friends stood before the house from their nightmares, its windows like vacant eyes. They knew Mr. Finch wouldn't stop until confronted. Inside, a crude altar held a student ID, Sarah's. Suddenly, a shadow formed, Alistair Finch, no longer their teacher but a snarling apparition. Mike remembered the mirror, angling it toward the entity. Alistair's form flickered, then dissolved with a silent scream. The house fell silent, leaving the four trembling in the darkness. The old auditorium at Crestwood High had been locked up for years. Officially it was asbestos and instability, but students whispered about the weeping lady of the stage. For Liam, Chloe, Noah and Maya, graduation loomed and they craved one last adventure, the dare. Spend a night inside the haunted theater. With a stolen key and flashlights, they slipped in after midnight. The doors thudded shut behind them, sealing them in darkness, their courage tested by the silence and the legend. For the first hour, it was almost boring. The friends explored the vast, empty space, their nervous laughter echoing unnaturally in the oppressive silence. They ventured backstage, finding decaying props from forgotten plays and dressing rooms with mirrors clouded by age. They even went up on the stage itself, taking turns pretending to deliver dramatic monologues to the empty, ghostly audience. They were starting to believe the stories were just that. Stories. The only thing haunting this place was dust and neglect. They settled down in the center of the seating area, rolling out their sleeping bags and feeling their bravado return. Then, just after 2 a.m., they heard it. A faint, mournful sound from the direction of the stage. At first, they thought it was the wind, but the sound grew clearer, coalescing into the unmistakable sound of a woman softly weeping. It was a sound of pure, heart-wrenching sorrow. They froze, flashlights trained on the heavy red curtain. The weeping continued, rising and falling in a gut-wrenching cadence. Liam, trying to be brave, called out, asking who was there. The only response was the weeping, which seemed to grow closer, as if the source was moving just behind the thick velvet. Suddenly, the weeping stopped. The silence that followed was somehow even more terrifying. And then, slowly, with a sound of squealing, rusty rings, the heavy stage curtain began to part on its own. It slid open just enough to reveal center stage, which was now illuminated by a single phantom spotlight that hadn't been there moments before, and in the center of that light stood a figure. It was a woman, semi-transparent, dressed in a beautiful but dated gown from the 1950s. Her face was a mask of tragedy, tears streaming down her translucent cheeks. She wasn't looking at them, but past them, as if watching a performance only she could see. The friends were paralyzed by fear, unable to scream, unable to move. The spectral woman raised a hand, not in a threatening way, but in a gesture of longing. She opened her mouth, and a silent scream seemed to fill the auditorium, a wave of pure despair and anguish that washed over them, making their chests ache and their eyes water in sympathy. She took a step forward, her form flickering like a bad projection. And then another. She wasn't just a weeping ghost, she was an active, tormented spirit, and she was moving directly towards them, her sorrow so palpable it felt like a physical force. As the weeping lady drifted off the stage and into the aisle, moving with an unnatural grace, the friends finally broke free from their paralysis. They scrambled backwards, tripping over their sleeping bags in a desperate panic. This wasn't a story anymore, this was real, and it was coming for them. Noah fumbled for the door, but it was locked, the handle refusing to turn. They were trapped. The ghost continued her slow, agonizing advance, her mournful gaze fixed on something far away. Her ethereal form glided over the seats, her sorrowful energy making the very air around them crackle. It was Chloe who noticed something strange. The ghost wasn't looking at them at all. Her gaze was fixed on the back of the auditorium, specifically on the small, glass-windowed projection booth high above the seats. As the weeping lady got closer, Chloe saw a flicker of movement in the booth's window. It was another figure, this one darker, more solid. A man in a sharp suit. He was just standing there, watching. The ghost raised her hand towards the booth, her silent scream intensifying, a look of betrayal and heartbreak on her face. This wasn't just a haunting, it was a scene, a memory, playing out on a loop. Suddenly, the pieces of the legend clicked together in Liam's mind, a detail everyone always forgot. The story wasn't just about a weeping lady. It was about a young actress who was in love with the school's drama teacher back in the 50s. He had promised to leave his wife for her, but on the night of the big school play, he told her he wouldn't. Heartbroken, she had taken her own life backstage during the final act. But the twist, the part no one ever told, was that he was the true, malevolent force. He was the one who had haunted the auditorium, his guilt and cruelty binding her spirit to the place of her greatest triumph and deepest sorrow. The ghost of the actress wasn't the threat, she was the victim, forever replaying her final moments. The true danger was the man in the booth, the teacher, a possessive, spectral warden ensuring his victim could never leave. As this realization dawned on them, the dark figure in the booth seemed to turn its attention to the students, its form growing larger, more menacing. He was the one who kept the doors locked. He was the one who trapped souls. The weeping lady faded, as the teacher's shadow began to descend from the booth. A far more ancient and sinister presence, ready for its next encore with a new, captive audience. The stories you've heard tonight are more than just tales to tell around a campfire. They are echoes from the hallways of places we all thought were safe, from the unsettling shadow of a substitute teacher who was more than he seemed, to the tragic secret locked away in a haunted auditorium. These accounts peel back the veneer of normalcy that covers our schools. They reveal the dark currents that can flow just beneath the surface of everyday life, in the places where we learn, grow, and forge our earliest memories. The final bell doesn't always signal the end of the day. Sometimes it signals the beginning of the nightmare. We often think of school as a place of learning, of bright futures and youthful energy. But for some it becomes a place of fear, a stage for unexplained and terrifying events that defy all logic. The ghosts of the past don't always stay in graveyards. Sometimes they linger in locker rooms, in empty classrooms, and on dusty, forgotten stages. They serve as a chilling reminder that history has a long memory, and the walls of our schools have seen more than we could possibly imagine. They hold on to secrets, sorrows, and sometimes, something far more sinister. These stories remind us that sometimes the scariest things aren't found in textbooks, but in the shadows of our own schools. The line between a normal school day and a terrifying ordeal can be thinner than we think. A new teacher, a locked door, a simple dare. That's all it can take to cross over into a world where the rules of reality no longer apply. It makes you wonder what secrets your own school might be hiding, what whispers echo in its empty halls after everyone has gone home for the night. Every school has its stories, its legends. Maybe it's a bathroom mirror where a face sometimes appears, or a staircase where footsteps are heard when no one is there. These tales are part of the fabric of the high school experience, a shared folklore of fear that connects students across generations. What happened at your school? What are the stories that the students whisper when the teachers aren't listening? Let us know in the comments below, because the most terrifying stories are often the ones that are true.